Let's bust some bullshit. There's a lot of people who misunderstand and misrepresent how the equalization program works in Canada. So in this video, I'm going to bust some bullshit and then I'm going to show you exactly how it does work. And I'm even going to talk about resource revenue and how and why Albertans pay more, but I'm going to put that at the very end, so you have to learn all the other shit first.
And we make the payments to general revenue of the government of Canada out of general revenue for the province of Alberta.
Bullshit. He's making it sound like the provincial revenue is sent to the federal revenue. That's not what happens. But let's talk for a minute about where this money comes from. Federal revenue comes from our federal income taxes. It comes from GST and it comes from corporate taxes. They make some money elsewhere too, but that's the stuff that affects us. The businesses pay taxes to them and we pay income taxes and GST. And the provincial revenue also comes from income tax. When you file your income tax, it is separated into provincial and federal, except in Quebec where you have to make two filings. In the rest of the provinces, we file once, but then it goes to different places. And these guys don't send these guys money. Here's the thing, even if the Alberta government was sending the federal government any money, you would see it in their publicly available budget, but you don't, even on the second page. But if you look at the revenue part of the Alberta budget, you can see that they are receiving federal transfers. Just because they don't receive equalization payments doesn't mean that they're not getting millions of dollars towards healthcare and social programs.
It's very clear that Alberta's resource royalty revenue counts towards what we have to send to Ottawa in equalization payments.
Bullshit, because again, these guys don't send these guys anything. Don't worry, I'll keep my word. You will learn about how resource revenue affects equalization at the end. If you visit the government website, you'll see that it says that provincial governments make no contributions. And if you visit the Library of Parliament online, you'll find that they say that the provinces do not contribute financially. They also say that the provinces are uninvolved aside from the calculation in whether or not they deserve a payment. And they repeat that the provinces don't contribute financially.
Your original video on this whole argument is when you put out that our income tax was what equalization payments came from. That's incorrect.
Bullshit, it is correct. If you visit the government page, you'll see that it's financed entirely by only these guys. And again, these guys get the money from federal taxes, like the income tax system. Now let's talk about how it actually works. And I'm going to be quoting this guy a lot, the economist who is sitting beside Smith on the Alberta Next panel. Because even though he isn't saying anything right now, in 2018 and in 2021, he wrote about it. What really happens is that the government looks at every province's revenue and calculates its fiscal capacity. I'll talk about that in a second. And then assigns an average, and any province that is below its fiscal capacity gets a top up from these guys. Not from these guys, from these guys. So every single province has different tax rules. Every province has a different sales tax, going from 0 sales tax in Alberta to an extra 10% sales tax in PEI. And these guys also have different tax brackets. Provincially, in your provincial income tax, it's different tax brackets from province to province. This is the same. The revenue that actually pays the equalization payments to top up provinces that fall below the average, that's all the same. We're all paying the exact same federal tax rates. We all pay the same GST rates. So since it's so different from province to province, they assign an average. They look at how much revenue is there, and then they calculate how much would that be if it was taxed at an average rate instead of what you guys are doing. And they use that same calculation with every province. Now, this is from Trevor, the economist, who sits next to Danielle Smith. And this is an old article. This is from 2018. So the numbers are outdated, but the concept isn't. And it talks about how, so like if Alberta makes $12,000 per person in their revenue, if they were taxed at an average rate, if BC was taxed at that same average rate, we'd be bringing in about $11,000 per person. It's like $6,000 in PEI, and Quebec, it's $8,000. So if they were to assign an average of $10,000 per person to deliver the government services that all Canadians are promised in the Constitution, If they set that at 10 grand, PEI would be given 4,000 per person as a top up, and Quebec would be given 2,000 per person as a top up. And again, that top up money gets paid out of here, out of the federal revenue, federal income taxes, federal corporate taxes, GST. Trevor had also offered some hypotheticals because there is a big difference between province to province. Like if you're a province raising revenue, it's a lot different when your industry is potatoes and fish versus when your industry is oil. Pause to read. All right, now for those foaming at the mouth because I haven't brought up resource revenue yet. Resource revenue and resource royalties are kept by the province. So since that money is in here, it counts towards the calculation of what's your fiscal capacity. How many government dollars per person do you have? But it's only half, which is something that was put in place under Stephen Harper, actually. If Alberta has $2 billion that they make out of oil, only $1 billion would be counted in the calculations of how many dollars per person do you have. So now let's talk about why Alberta pays more than other people. This is written by Trevor the economist who sits next to Danielle Smith. Again, to hear, not to hear, to hear. For the economist who sits next to Danielle Smith wrote this in 2021, so these are 2021 numbers. But he was talking about how Albertans contribute more to federal revenue than average Canadians because they make more. On average, they're paying $2,500 more in federal income tax because they make more, and they're spending about $400 a person more in GST, again, because they make more. Like maybe some of the GST spending is the absence of another provincial sales tax, but at the end of the day, we all have the exact same federal income tax rates and we pay the same 5% GST. In Alberta, 1 in 5 people are making over 6 figures and no other province can say that. This is fucking long, eh? Anyway, if you still disagree with me, please do so with receipts. At the end of the day, I just want people to look at things the way they really are instead of misrepresenting them. Because misrepresenting is just another word for bullshit. Tell me if you disagree.